It's midnight in Eastern Africa and 11 p.m. in Southern Africa. In Nigeria, it's 10 p.m. Our top stories tonight: residents flee as bandits threaten to attack Zamfara communities. Army uncovers 3 million liters of stolen crude in Benue State. House of Representatives orders ministries to return COVID-19 intervention funds. Thanks for joining us on Nigeria Tonight. I'm Kofi Bartels. Let's begin by telling you that the Oyo State government in the southern part of Nigeria has reported that a death toll resulting from Tuesday's explosion in Ibadan, the state capital, has increased to 5. The explosion caused extensive damage to numerous houses within a 14-kilometer radius. On Tuesday night, Governor Seyi Makinde provided an update stating that 2 deaths occurred on the day of the incident, with an additional victim succumbing to injuries in hospital on Wednesday. In the aftermath of the blast, 7 individuals sustained injuries in the Bodija area of Ibadan. However, a recent update on Thursday from the governor's special advisor on security matters, Fatai Owosheni, revealed that 2 more bodies have been recovered, from further raising the death toll. He told News Central that the state government continues to monitor and respond to the situation as investigations into the cause of the explosion are underway.
What led to the explosion? Obviously, we've been, the line that people must have, people living in that area or in the building that the thing emanated, that they must have been stockpiling explosive materials. But as a background, on that day, before 8 p.m., virtually most part of Ibadan, had that bam thing, the blast, which even 10 kilometers away, some people said they heard. And immediately we had that information. I heard from my house, which is like almost 7 kilometers away. His Excellency, as the Chief Security Officer of the state, was the first person that was alerted. And they said he had the same thing. And right immediately, the emergency management, disaster management process kick-started by force deploying security, the Commissioner of Police, the Commander of Amatekun, Director General Operation Boss, the heads of the various military units that we have here. Everyone had moved there, including the GOC. So the first thing was, in disaster management, see how you can save lives, save properties of people, and of course ensure that you secure the scene so that hoodlums will not take advantage of that to perpetrate crimes and put people's lives in danger. That was the first thing.
Well, Bernard Ekiti has been in Oyo State, in Ibadan, and at the site of the explosion, and he joins us now for more on this tragedy. Bernard, good to hear from you tonight. And please give us the latest. We're hearing that the death toll has gone up. We have 5 total persons who have unfortunately lost their lives. Please tell us more about that.
Thank you, Kofi. Thank you for having me this evening. Yes, according to the governor's statements from the governor's office, death toll has risen, but I'm not sure about the numbers. According to what you read out, they said that some of the people succumbed to injuries in the hospital. However, today I can confirm that certain corpses or remains of people were dug out of the rubble this evening while excavators that you can see behind me were digging. As a matter of fact, it was a bad sight, I must confess, because some of the remains that were dug up were, and I can confirm from what I saw, were not in complete state. They were put in body bags. I think I could count at least 3 body bags and the way they were put in those bags, it didn't look like complete bodies. It looked like they were dismembered. Of course, at some point, we had to turn our cameras away for respect of the dead and for those who were working. But it didn't look good at all, I must confess. At some point, we had to get nose masks because we could even get a feel of the stench of decomposing flesh around the area. And that's, of course, with the dust that's coming with the Hamatan and with the clearing of the rubble. So I cannot confirm the numbers, but if the official figures we're having is 5, then we'll go with 5. But, you know, there's a little bit of some confusion, if you ask me.
Yeah, Bernard, I mean, I've spoken to some analysts who are questioning those numbers. When they look at the number of buildings that came down, I don't know if you can give us put a number on how many buildings came down in the vicinity. I mean, and when you look at the aerial footage of that, speaking to somebody tonight on Politics HQ who said, between 7 and 8 p.m., families are at home. People are back from the activities for the day. And so if you have such an explosion at such a time, you expect a higher casualty. And he wasn't sure about the 3 that the government put out yesterday and the 5 we're having today. So how many buildings were affected by the explosion?
Okay, Kofi, I would try and turn away now and just look back. Now, behind these trucks that you're seeing, these trucks, by the way, are used to clear some of the rubble, I want to believe. Somewhere to the left of the trucks is where you have the epicenter of the explosion, where the building itself, I believe where the explosives were stored, was. And that building was completely obliterated. And then the building next to it as well, the same thing. So let's say 2 of those buildings are gone. And when I say gone, I mean nothing left standing from those buildings. As a matter of fact, now the rubble in those places have been cleared. The crater that was created by the explosion has been leveled, if I'm not mistaken. So if you have 2 buildings completely obliterated, and then you have, say, maybe 3 or 4 around those buildings torn in half or shredded, you would expect that that's at least 4 buildings, where you possibly could have casualties. Now, around here, this entire street, there is no complete building standing anymore. Some of the buildings are torn in half. Some of them have their roofs caved in. As a matter of fact, none of them is complete anymore. So it's a bit confusing to say that just 3 to 5 people have lost their lives. We are not celebrating the fact that it's possible that certain people would have died, but it's difficult to believe that it's just between 3 to 5 people who have died from the explosion on that day alone. The blast, the impact of the blast, from what we could see. I mean, if the impact of the blast could be felt from almost 40 kilometers away, imagine what could have happened to people who were between 0 to 500 meters from the blast itself. I'm no explosive expert, but I don't think it's rocket science.
Bernard, we can see the footage on the screen right now with the crater, the hole caused by that explosion. Is there any indication as to what exactly was the explosive device used or that caused that explosion?
I'm going to combine my own knowledge of excavation and of mining to the information we got from Mr. Fatai Owusheni. Now, Mr. Fatai Owusheni did tell us that the explosion basically must have come from activities of a miner. Now, people who mine solid minerals, and Oyo State does have quite a deposit of solid minerals, so it's expected that there will be miners in this area, some legal, some illegal. People who mine solid minerals use explosives for excavation and to blast areas, particularly rocks. And what kind of explosives? They mostly use dynamites, if I'm not mistaken. From what I've been able to read, some use C4, which is also another explosive device, but most likely people use dynamites. So if putting all that together, it's possible that dynamites may have been what has been used, or maybe C4. But again, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not an explosive expert, so I'll go with the information we got from the explosive experts from the Nigerian police and Nigerian army, and what we heard from Mr. Awosheni. He just said explosives. He didn't give any exact kind of explosive device or devices used. But if I try to narrow it down, those are the two that I will think about.
All right, Bernard, I'll advise you to get a mask, because we don't know if any chemical materials were used in those, in whatever explosive device, was the cause of that. And of course, the stench, like you said, is going to get worse as the day goes by, going by experience with these kind of things like we've had in the past. But I just hope you stay safe, and we'll keep sharing our thoughts and prayers, for the families of those who have been killed. Bernard, good job. Thank you very much for your time. Let's move on to security matters now. Residents of 10 communities in Bungudu, local government area of Zamfara State in the northern part of Nigeria, have fled their homes for fear of being attacked by a notorious bandit leader, Dan Nagala, who earlier sent attack threats to them. The affected villages are Gidan Saro, Maje, Fanda Haki, Hayin Dankaro, Doka, Dan Gamji, and we also have Gam Muar, Hanu, Dan Katsina, Dakwalge, and Gidan Arne. Well, the residents fled their homes following a recent operation carried out by soldiers of the Operation Hadarin Daji. The operatives on Tuesday stormed the famous Danbasa Buzaya forest and recovered a large number of cows allegedly stolen and kept by Dan Nagala. Nigeria's federal government has called for an end to ransom payment to kidnappers. The Minister of Defense, or rather Federal Capital Territory, during the stakeholder meeting security dialogue in Bwari Area Council of Abuja, following several reported cases of kidnappings in the area, says that the payments to the kidnappers will embolden them to continue the vice. He assured residents of the area council that government will put every modality in place to end the scourge of kidnapping. Let's join Amadinu, who sent in this report.
The meeting was called at the instance of the FCT administration with stakeholders at the Bwari Area Council of Abuja. This is following the insecurity being witnessed in the council, which has resulted in several kidnappings that has left many residents unsettled.
Bwari Area Council is the closest area council to the city. Bwari Area Council, we are having 3 boundaries of state: Niger State, and Kaduna State, and Nasarawa State.
Security is one of the key priorities that Mr. President is the Lead Hope agenda would want to face squarely.
The FCT Minister Nyesom Wike assured of government's commitment to tackling the insecurity situation affecting residents.
My coming here today is to assure you that we are very, very serious. We are very, very serious. All those criminals, bandits, enough is enough.
The minister was also emphatic in calling on citizens to desist from paying ransom to kidnappers. He says the administration will go all out to ensure that they mobilize all resources to end kidnapping.
By doing that, you are not helping us. You are only helping them to begin to make demands that they need 100 million, they need 200. Why would I go and give a criminal 100 million? If I give 100 million, will you not kidnap tomorrow? Then he will tell you 200 million. No. I know it's painful. Nobody will want it. But we can't stop it by telling them that we are going to raise money. There's no money to be raised anywhere.
The Sar King of Bwari called for more security presence within the council, saying it will help in efforts to restore peace.
Appealing since 2019 and 2020 that we are requesting for mini barrack along the Shere Kawu Iguazi. I believe with you, inshallah, something will be done by the grace of God. Bwari Area Council, we are receiving inflow of people from neighboring states. I'm still appealing to the Honorable Minister that we need area command in Bwari so that it will help us in terms of security aspect.
In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
In the meantime, troops of the Operation Whirl Stroke, in collaboration with the police and other security agencies, have rescued 9 kidnapped victims and arrested 2 suspects in Benue State in Nigeria's north central. The force commander, Major General Sunday Igbino Wania, disclosed this to journalists on Thursday in Makurdi, saying the troops rescued the victims arrested suspects during an operation on Tuesday at Owupa Forest in the Igbadibo local government area of that state. He added that the rescued victims comprised 8 females and 1 male. Let's now tell you that doctors and healthcare workers in Ekiti State University Teaching Hospital in the southwest of Nigeria are on indefinite strike because of an attack by thugs. This took place on Monday. The attackers, who are believed to be connected to a deceased patient, damaged hospital property and attacked staff members after forcibly taking the patient's body away. The Commissioner of Police in Ekiti State is investigating the incident, questioning suspects and deploying officers to restore order. However, the resident doctors insist they will not be ending this strike until arrests are made and those responsible are prosecuted for the violence. Meanwhile, the hospital management has condemned the violence in its entirety and is promising to ensure the safety of staff, along with consequences for anyone who harasses its workers. The 6th Division Niger Army Port Harcourt says it has uncovered 14 crude oil reservoirs containing about 3 million liters of stolen crude in Odagwa, Eche, in Eche local government area of Rivers State. General Officer Commanding 6th Division Nigerian Army Port Harcourt, Major General Jamal Abdul Salam, while conducting newsmen around the reservoirs located in the thick forest of Odagwa, Eche on Thursday, disclosed that through credible intelligence, the officers of the division were able to discover about 14 reservoirs that contain upwards of about 200,000 liters of crude in the forest. He noted that the suspects constructed various tanks and used hoses and cables to connect crude oil from abandoned wellheads located in the area, while adding that the discovery was part of the Army's efforts to ensure government gets what is due it. You're watching Nigeria Tonight on News Central Television. Coming up, Nigeria's House of Reps orders ministries to return funds. We have details of this after the break. Please join us again. And as you're watching Nigeria Tonight, a reminder of our top stories. Residents flee as bandits threaten to attack Zamfara communities. Army uncovers 3 million liters of stolen crude in Rivers State. And House of Representatives orders ministries to return COVID-19 intervention funds. The Supreme Council of Sharia in Nigeria has met with the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, commending his economic policies while advocating for the deployment of all resources to combat threats to national security. Speaking in an interview with State House correspondents on Thursday after a meeting with the President, the Vice President of the Council, Dr. Bashir Umar, said the group paid a courtesy call on the President to show solidarity and commended him on the decisions he has taken on behalf of the country. Umar noted that the Council requested the President expedite action to cushion the effects of the hard economic decisions and to request that he tackle insecurity headlong to achieve food security. The meeting is coming about 48 hours after the President of the group, Sheikh Abdul Rashid Hadiyatullah, expressed regret for supporting the Tinubu Shettima same-faith ticket last year.
Here to pay a courtesy call to the President and to show our solidarity and commendation and to commend him on the hard decisions that he has taken for the country, and also to request that expedite action must be taken to cushion the effects of the hard economic decisions that were taken, and also to bring out everything that is in the arsenal to face the problem of insecurity in this country, and also to achieve food security. And we also submitted to him the communique of our just concluded conference, which brought about Islamic scholars, academics, intellectuals, and civil society organizations to make a post-mortem of the 2023 elections and to create a consensus on the way forward for the country, which we'll present to government.
The Nigerian federal government has revealed that it is in talks with the World Bank for a $1.5 billion loan to support the budget and also to provide liquidity in the forex market. Finance Minister and Coordinating Minister of the Nigerian economy, Wale Edun, made the disclosure on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum holding in Davos, Switzerland. According to the minister, the reforms will with respect to fuel subsidy removal and the merger of the foreign exchange markets require some form of support from multilateral organizations. On the issue of liquidity in the foreign exchange market, the minister noted that the government's priority is to stabilize the naira through additional liquidity, maintaining that receipts from crude oil sales remain the main source, while also looking at domestic dollar savings within and outside the official market. The minister also hinted that Nigeria is contemplating issuing euro bonds later in the year if the rates are considerably lower. He stated that major issuers have informed the country of the possibility this year. Interesting developments and statements coming from Nigeria at the World Economic Forum. We have joining us to discuss this further, Head of Fixed Income and FX at Chapel Hill Denham Securities, Oladipo Ajayi. Good evening to you. Thank you so very kindly for your time tonight.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Kofi, for having me on this night.
What's the significance of this $1.5 billion loan from the World Bank? Federal government is touting to support the federal government's budget and, promote liquidity in the forex market.
Well, for me, let's start from sometimes in December. I think about the last day in December, there was the news about Afrexim actually disbursing the first tranche of the transaction of the swap transaction with them, and to us, we received about $2.25 billion. And what that means then was the fact that it means that the central bank will have the capacity to actually meet pending obligation that's currently sitting on the table. You and I know that there's a lot of things that's actually piling up in the FX on the FX table. We have the airlines still agitating for the outstanding to be paid. You have a lot of manufacturing companies who has opened LCs that has not been fulfilled up to now, and this has been putting a lot of pressure on the naira in the parallel market. As at today, naira to dollar traded over 1,300 naira. And when you look at what's happening in the official market too, we have seen a lot of volatility. There are times where the naira would lose over 150 naira in just one trading section to actually close over 1,000. So it simply means that we need dollar liquidity to actually help to actually rein in this pressure that is currently on Naira. And how do we do that is to actually generate FX. How do we generate FX? Is that you get generated in form of revenue from oil, or you actually get a short-term funding that will help you more like a stopgap that you can actually use to actually fund things. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people actually applauded the fact that the country is currently speaking to World Bank in regard to this. And truly, if we're able to actually get that 1.5 billion, and also don't also forget that we also have outstanding 1.05 billion still outstanding with Aprexim. And Aprexim have promised that before the end of this month, we'll get that. So it simply means in totality, we'll be having close over $4 billion in our core fund. So with this, I think the central bank will be able to meet spending demands and also be able to create a bit of respite for Naira.
Considering Nigeria's reliance on crude oil sales, for revenue and for FX, to what extent will the nation's economy be impacted by the noticeable fluctuations in global oil prices? And what measures should the federal government put in place to mitigate such risks?
Well, I think it's no more news that we are highly exposed when it comes to our FX revenue. When you look at our FX revenue, close to 90% of our FX revenue is generated from oil. And we have seen what has happened in the oil market in the past. We saw what happened in 2014 when oil went as low as $28. And we saw happen in 2020, I think April 2020, when oil actually traded in the negative range. And if you also look back, you will see the impact of these prices on our currencies. And what this simply means to the government is that we need to start looking at ways to actually diversify our economy. And but one thing, diversification is not something you get to do in a day. But I think we need to start now so that in the years to come, we will not be exposed, fully exposed, just like what we have seen in the past. So the government needs to start looking at ways to actually diversify the economy. And I think one of the closest opportunities is the agricultural sector. And another thing that I also think comes to mind is the service sector as well. Currently, Nigeria is currently actually exporting a lot of service abroad. And we've seen a lot of people working with most of these big tech companies and also generate FX revenue. So with this, we'll be able to actually diversify the economy. So the government needs to work aggressively on finding a way to actually use the agricultural sector to actually diversify the economy from the oil sector.
Quite interesting, like what you said there about the export of talent around the world. Let's look at domestic dollar savings now. What role does domestic dollar savings, both within and outside the official market, play, in the government's efforts to stabilize the exchange rate?
Yeah, currently, most of these deposits are actually sitting idle in the hands of banks. When I mean idle, I mean on the part of depositors. So what the government is trying to do is to actually raise a bond. So the bond is going to be more of like a domestic bond that's actually focused on local investors only. So the focus is to be able to actually, I think it's going to be more like a win-win for both the government and the holder of these investments. As we speak, when you have your fund deposited in a dollar account in Nigeria, in a DOM account in Nigeria, I bet you hardly get a return up to like 2%. But imagine the government coming to the market and say, oh, we want to issue like a 3-year Eurobond, and it's actually targeted as local investors, and we're going to give a return of 6%. That's about 400 basis points from what you can easily get from your banks. So for me, I think it's a very good one. And what the government is trying to do is to actually stop all these idle funds that's actually sitting on the balance sheet of banks, to actually use that to actually stem the current tide that's currently affecting Naira.
Interesting. Talking about Eurobonds, Nigeria's finance minister, talked about major issuers suggesting the possibility of Eurobond issuance this year. In your opinion, what are the key considerations that Nigeria should have, and also the key challenges that the country may face regarding this in international financial markets?
Well, I think the first thing that Nigeria needs to consider, I guess that was what the Minister of Finance actually considered. You need to consider what's currently happening in international markets. As we speak currently, there has been forward guidance from Fed that likelihood that by H2 they will start cutting rates, and they expect to do more like 3 rate cuts this year. So what this means to the market is that come H2, there's every tendency that rates will be very low in the market, and this will open up the market for emerging markets issuers to actually come to the market to actually raise funds. As we speak currently, this week, Cote d'Ivoire came out with a report that they're actually going into the market to raise Eurobonds, and I think currently the rates are not as bad as what we saw last year. If you check most of Nigeria sovereign Eurobonds, they are actually trading around 9 to 10%. Imagine a 2051 bond currently trading around 10%. It simply means that the market is now responding positively. And what other thing the government also needs to consider is they need to consider the right timing to actually now go into the market. And the challenges that they are going to face is the fact that what we are currently seeing that is happening in African space. We know of Ghana already. We saw what happened in Zambia. We saw what happened in Ethiopia. We have seen what happened in Kenya, where most of these issuers are actually calling investors to actually renegotiate the modus operandi around the repayment of their loan. This could be more like an hindrance to Nigerian government going to the market. But the solace is the fact that by then, I think there would have been a bit of stability in our country. We expect Dangote Refinery to start commence operation aggressively by then. We expect Naira to have actually gotten a level where we feel that is appropriately priced. And by so doing, then it means that foreign investors will actually be looking at our market, and that will give the finance minister and the federal government to the opportunity to actually go into the market without any hassle.
Oladipo Ajayi, head fixed income and FX at Chabalil Denham Securities. It's been a pleasure having you tonight on the news.
Thank you very much for having me on Spotify.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to other stories. Nigeria's House of Representatives Public Accounts Committee has ordered the Ministries of Health, Industry, Trade and Investment and the Rural Electrification Agency to return unutilized and unaccounted for COVID-19 funds disbursed during the coronavirus pandemic. The committee, during a public hearing in Abuja, says that the funds running into billions of naira must be returned back to government coffers.
As part of efforts to recover unutilized COVID-19 funds released to ministries during the coronavirus pandemic to mitigate the effects on Nigerians, has begun a probe of benefiting ministries. The essence of this hearing is to ensure that the committee probing the funds disbursement is transparent and accountable as it investigates monies disbursed amounting to about 600 billion naira as intervention funds meant to mitigate the effects of COVID-19 on citizens. The ministries and agencies under investigation are the Ministries of Health, Industry, Trade and Investment, and the Rural Electrification Agency. The ministries, who were all present, failed to convince the committee on how the funds were utilized.
I had it here. I was actually waiting for us to finish so that I would tell you. I've had it ever since that we have 10 billion.
Madam, you have a submission here. This is your submission.
Yes.
This is your documents.
Yes.
We are a house that deals with documents. We don't. The oral testimony cannot override whatever is not included here. And in the whole of your document, there is nowhere you indicate or indicated that you have a 10 billion naira sitting or lying somewhere that has not been used. Just a moment. Yeah, you should take responsibility for that. And then, since the Auditor General raised this issue in maybe 2022 or thereabout, till now, there has not been any formal response or explanation from the Federal Ministry of Health to the Auditor General for the Federation on this money. I think some people need to really some people really need to ask a lot of questions on this.
Members expressed dissatisfaction over how the funds were utilized, prompting the committee to issue a directive that the monies disbursed be returned back to the coffers of government and channeled to other pressing needs.
Former permanent secretary and the current permanent secretary are affected by this motion to refund the sum of 75 billion naira back to the federal government as COVID-19 intervention fund, which, as far as we are concerned, has not been expended. So those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. The Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, the permanent secretary, is hereby ordered to cause a refund of a sum of 75 billion naira back to the Federation account within 7 days and present documents to indicate such a refund unfailingly. Thank you.
The committee says it will ensure that all benefiting ministries and agencies are accountable to citizens and will leave no stone unturned in recovering every mismanaged release. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Oboman.
The Minister of Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory has warned citizens obstructing the construction of infrastructure projects within the federal capital to desist from such or face the consequences. The minister made this known after inspecting ongoing construction works at the Guzape district in the central area of the nation's capital. Amadinui reports.
Can you bring the boards here?
The inspection commenced at the Guzape district of the federal capital city. The FCT minister inspected ongoing road construction works and received updates from the contractor responsible for the project.
Yes, we are handling Guzape Lot 2, diplomatic, and A11.
So what's happening to the diplomatic no work?
There is work, please. If you have time, let's go now and you'll see work. We are walking there. No, the hill is here is 3 kilometers. Up to the area is all 5 kilometers, the first section.
Well, this one is so.
Yes, yes.
What about the N20?
N20
No, that's not his
on Jahil. Yes, also
So,
Soko.
this one, that answer, what have they done?
He then proceeded to another lot being developed within the Guzape district and received more updates on the construction of infrastructural facilities at the lot.
This is the extension of Oladipotia way up to the cliff of Guzape. We're standing right now somewhere here on this cliff. And this road is coming to cross over this crest as this big valley.
This road from where?
From Fosex at Oladipotia is the one to be extended. That's what we call S20.
Did you come from there this way?
Yes, that is the major link. It will be the major link onto Guzape. A11 north.
This
Yes.
Well, you can see from here, you can as well see how it is. How it is
Diplomatic.
The other road, diplomatic, is connected to the other side. So there will be an access from there, from the one we came, and eventually a main access. This is part of diplomatic.
Yes, yes.
The minister expressed worry at reports of citizens obstructing the work of the contractors, saying the ministry will not entertain further reports.
One setback, which we just noticed there, about a House of Arrest member trying to stop the company from further construction. We're not going to take it lightly. This is not a private project, it's a public project handled by the Federal Capital Territory Administration. If there's any complaint, we think that whoever is responsible should complain to us and not to go and use police to stop a legitimate company construction work for the use of the public, which was approved by the Federal Council. We have directed the contractor to go back and make sure they don't heed to that so-called stoppage. They must go back and complete the work.
Inspection commenced from the Guzape area, several lots within Guzape, and now has ended at the central area. The minister is insisting that the ministry will continue to insist that the contractors meet up with certain standards befitting of the federal capital.
The contractor is doing all they can to meet up the deadline. I would believe they are going to accomplish it. But since Mr. President came on board, no work has stopped in this in all the sites. There are so many other sites, but it will be difficult to take all at the same time. But we believe after before December 2, some other projects will be handed over to the members of the public.
The minister also had a brief meeting with several of the contractors after the inspection, warning them to live up to the expectations of citizens and shun sharp practices being observed. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
With less than 24 hours for the Supreme Court to deliver judgment on the Delta State governorship election appeal, the political atmosphere in the state has remained calm. Correspondent Austin Azu reports that popular expectation is that a judgment will reflect the good of the people. Here's his report.
The affirmation of Sheriff Bwari by the Election Petition Tribunal and the Court of Appeal as duly elected governor of Delta State was challenged by the governorship candidates of the APC, Ovi Omwagege, Kenneth Gbagi of the SDP, and Kempela of the Labour Party. Dissatisfied, the legal tussle was taken to the country's highest courts, which reserved its judgment. Are residents of the state aware that the judgment day is here?
No, I'm not aware. I'm not aware. I'm not a politician. I'm not a politician. The matter is in the court. But I'm not aware that it's tomorrow that are giving judgment.
My likely opinion is let Supreme Court do the normal work.
Executive Assistant on Rotation and Communications to the state governor said the state is calm, waiting for the outcome of the Supreme Court judgment.
Let us know who won the election. They voted massively for Governor Sheriff Bwari in Delta State. And so you can see that's where the whole atmosphere is calm. There is no any part of the state where there are agitations or people, preparing to riot or anything. What they are waiting for tomorrow is celebration galore.
The South-South chairman of the Labour Party believes the judgment of the Supreme Court will be in the best interest of the people.
We are sure that something good will come out of Supreme Court. We're looking forward to it. We didn't go to court just for the going sake. We went to court hoping that our candidate will be declared as the governor of Delta State.
Chairman, Inter-Party Advisory Council, Delta State Chapter, say efforts have been made to ensure the state remains peaceful.
For the fact that one of your sons did not do well, does not stop you from celebrating another of your son. It's not partisan, it's not anti-party, it's not creating enmity. Why? Because we're all Deltas before we became member of every other political party. So we have always encouraged everybody as IPAC. Peace and security is our watchword. We want peace in Delta State. We want calmness. We have held a meeting prior to this day, and I've told all political parties, go and talk to your people. We don't want violence in Delta. We don't want rancor in Delta. We don't want anything that is not of normal in Delta.
Political bigwigs from the state are already in Abuja to witness the court proceedings, while various political supporters in the state are expressing diverse shades of assurance of victory. In Asaba for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
Nigeria Supreme Court will on Friday deliver judgment on the appeal filed by the nation's opposition, People's Democratic Party, and its candidate in the Gombe governorship election. Now, the aggrieved parties are praying the apex court to set aside the verdict of the Court of Appeal and the Gombe State governorship election petition court, which dismissed their case challenging the victory and declaration of Governor Yaya of the ruling All Progressives Congress as winner of the governorship election. Marvelous Obomano, our correspondent, tells us more.
Just a week after the nation's apex court delivered a landmark judgment on 7 state governorship appeals, all eyes will once again be focused on the Supreme Court as it sets its attention to the governorship election petition dispute in Gombe State. The appeal, filed by the nation's opposition People's Democratic Party and its candidate, Mohammed Bade, had their briefs adopted in Abuja with a deadline for final adjudication of the appeal coming in a few days' time. The court also reserved judgment for the Kaduna State governorship election dispute with both parties in the court, expressing optimism that the judgment will swing in their favor.
The Supreme Court of Nigeria has today adjourned the Gombe governorship appeal to tomorrow for judgment. The matter came up today. Parties have adopted their briefs. The appellants urged the Supreme Court to allow the appeal and grant their reliefs, while the respondents argued otherwise.
We have presented enough facts and the law to warrant a reconsideration and a reversal of the decision of the appellate court. And we believe that hopefully we'll have a favorable outcome and a good day.
They are saying that their confidence in the Apex court was reinforced following the court's last judgment and are hoping that justice will prevail at the end of the day.
What we have seen today is not going to be depart from what we already heard from the Court of Appeal. We are here today for the Supreme Court to affirm what the Court of Appeal has judged and nothing more, nothing less.
What really transpired last Friday is enough evidence for one to know that the appellate court will do justice to our case. And I'm confident that they will do justice to our case.
Whichever way the judgment goes, many citizens will be hoping that justice will be served in the interest of the state, and the parties can put the elections behind and work for the good of all. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Obonman.
Let's see judicial stories ahead of the upcoming Supreme Court judgment on the Nasarawa State governorship election dispute. Women from Nasarawa State have staged a peaceful protest in the nation's capital, Abuja, calling on the Apex Court to ensure there is justice for citizens of the state. The women, while expressing worry over reports claiming that the several persons were exerting undue influence on the justices of the Apex Court to swing the judgment in their favor, urged the justices to defend and safeguard the sanctity of the nation's judiciary and to ensure that their judgment is unbiased.
We stand here before you with heavy heart, urging and entreating every individual who values the principle of justice and fairness to lend their voices in safeguarding the sanctity of the judicial process. It is imperative that upcoming Supreme Court verdict be devoid of any external pressure or undue influence. The decision rendered by the highest court in the land should reflect an impartial and unbiased examination of the facts and evidence presented before it. We urge the authorities to ensure transparency and openness in the handling of the case and the subsequent release of the verdict reflecting popular vote. The people
Broadcasters in Abia State have hailed the recent ruling of a high court in Abuja, which nullified the powers of the National Broadcasting Commission from imposing fines on media houses for alleged breaches of the broadcast code. They are particularly happy that they will no longer have to worry about certain reports that hold government and leaders accountable. News Central's Chinwe Ugeli has more in this report.
It had been a difficult condition for broadcast stations in Nigeria over the years complying with said code of the National Broadcasting Commission. Some televisions and radio stations had been fined various sums for allegedly breaching the NBC code of airing reports or documentaries that threatened the peace of the nation. The media rights agenda challenged the imposition of these fines by the regulatory body in court, and the court held that the regulatory body lacked the right to perform judicial powers of demanding fines. It thereafter declared null and void the provisions of the NBC Code, which empowers it to impose fines on broadcast stations for breaches. Some broadcasters have reacted to the landmark judgment.
The NBC, as the regulator of broadcasting in Nigeria, had become arbitrary in imposing fines on airing broadcast stations, radio, television alike. And we had questioned such arbitrary powers to impose without any legal backing. With the ruling, by the High Court, it keeps the NBC in check, puts them on hold, whereby the television stations or airing broadcast stations have a right to go for redress within the court system.
Most times, it's as if they usurp that power, by giving unnecessary fines to media houses, even when it's not necessary. It's more like it now become a political arm of the government, to checkmate the radio stations. Thereby, this issue of the freedom of information is no more there, because there are certain things you say, in as much as you're not allowed to make certain comments or say certain things, but there are certain things that are not quite necessary. You see the NBC hammer.
Although the broadcast media can heave a sigh of relief, it is also pertinent to note that there must be some level of control and supervision in order to avoid abuses.
The broadcast outfits are run by professionals. They can self-regulate, and in a case where they err, there would be, an open platform, a fair platform, whereby, their error can be judged, and commensurate fines can be imposed on them, not something arbitrary, like has been the case with the NBC, ₦500,000, 1 million naira to 5 million. How much are they even making anyway?
It is important that the television and radio stations are not stifled with stringent regulations to enable them courageously carry on with their jobs at all times. In Umuahia 4 News Central, Chinwe Ugeli.
Thank you, Chinwe, and that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the big stories tonight. Residents have fled 10 communities in Zamfara as bandits have threatened to attack. The Nigerian Army has uncovered 3 million liters of stolen crude in Rivers State. We also told you that Nigeria's House of Representatives has ordered ministries to return unspent COVID-19 intervention fund. And that's the size of our package tonight. Let's remind you can send us your eyewitness reports. You can use the WhatsApp number and email address showing right now on your screen. Also, follow us at News Central TV on the major social media platforms. And you can watch us live on any of these channels or platforms. Many thanks for joining us tonight. As the size of our package, my name is Kofi Bartels. Nigeria, good night.